So I want you to picture a cartoon. It's two dogs, their leashes off, sitting on zafus in a meditation hall or meditation area. Candles lit in the background, incense burning. And one dog says to the other, "The key to meditation is learning to stay." So it's my heart's desire that as a result of today's message, that you will have clarity, more clarity than you've had before, on what to expect and not expect from the spiritual practice of meditation. And that you will be inspired and encouraged to do it. That's the main thing, just do it. So I was inspired to do this particular message by an article by my spiritual director, Unity Minister Robert Brummett, who many of you experienced this past spring when he used one of his books for a series and he gave several of the messages. And this article, it was actually a blog, he does a monthly blog, and it was titled, "5 Mistakes We Beginners Often Make." And that was a good start. I changed the word mistakes to misunderstandings, and I added some additional misunderstandings from my personal experience, and also discovered a few more in a brief Google search. So, I wonder, what's in it for you? What's in it for people to practice meditation? And I wondered if some of you, if Karen's can run the mic again, what are some of the benefits that those of you who have a regular meditation practice have experienced?
Inner peace.
Inner peace.
Big time.
Keeping calmer and being able to disperse of anger, or that immediate anger of what's that guy doing in front of me, to, oh, he must be in a hurry, or he must whatever, and it's all good.
It's all good. Absolutely.
Feeling grounded and more loving towards others.
Great. Okay, so those are just a few of the benefits. Anybody else? Rob, did you have your hand raised?
It's a place to come home to when the world just gets a little bit too crazy. That home is always available.
Yes.
Becoming so aware of living in this body.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm sort of piggybacking on what you said. What helps me so much is it creates space in between things. So, life can be so busy, and it's like one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and meditating just creates that space to kind of, go to the next thing.
Great. And we have one more over here.
Increasing my ability to live and love more and to be more creative. And when I come out of this space, sometimes the problems I had going in, the answer is right there. And I really am so thankful for all the benefits of meditation.
Great. Thank you all so much for adding to the long list of benefits from meditation. There are both mental benefits, there are physical benefits. It improves our self-awareness and self-esteem. It improves focus and concentration, reduces stress, or increases our ability to manage stress. It helps in coping with depression and anxiety. It helps overcome addictions, if you practice it. It helps control chronic pain and fatigue. It reconnects you with peace and inner happiness, as was spoken to. It promotes personal growth and self-confidence. And physically, it lowers blood pressure and reduces physical tension. It slows down the aging process. It strengthens the immune system. It keeps you recharged throughout the day and removes psychosomatic disorders. So I don't know why anyone wouldn't meditate, but I know it took me many years to finally get it. So I hope that if you don't meditate currently, that at the end of this message, you really decide to make it a practice. So why is it important for me to go over common misunderstandings or mistakes? Well, the reason is that we may be unconsciously or unknowingly diluting, diminishing, or dismissing the effectiveness of meditation. And Robert Brendalyn points out that while this happens often to beginners when they're first beginning a practice, it is important to realize that it is skillful to always consider yourself a beginner in order to remain open and teachable. So the Buddhists call it having a beginner's mind. And so I say, don't leave home without it. Don't leave home without a beginner's mind. Don't leave home without meditating. So some of the misunderstandings that we have are due to unconscious assumptions about the nature of meditation. And this unconscious assumptions limit the effectiveness of our practice. So I want to share with you first my number one misunderstanding when I started meditating. And that misunderstanding was not realizing or appreciating that thoughts happen. Thoughts happen. So I thought that you weren't supposed to think when you meditated. And I kept having thoughts come up, so I kept judging myself a failure. I don't know how to do this. I keep thinking. Well, since then, I have come to understand that thoughts happen. And they come up as a part of the purification process. And they come to pass. They do not come to stay unless we keep them, okay? And I also had to learn that thoughts happen that are both pleasant and unpleasant. And I cannot stop the thoughts from coming, but I can give them free passage through my mind. And I can just watch them, just like I can watch boats go down a stream. I don't have to jump aboard every boat I see and try to control it. I can just let it pass. My second misunderstanding was that I thought sitting in meditation should always be comfortable. Wow, was I ever wrong about that? So like thoughts, I've come to understand that physical sensation during meditation can be pleasant or unpleasant. It can be comfortable to sit, or it can be uncomfortable to sit. And I say, do it anyway. So readjusting my posture and sitting position, I have learned, does not help control my comfort level beyond a few seconds. So I can shift around and be a fish out of water all I want, and as soon as I stop again, if there's stuff processing in me, I'm going to get uncomfortable again. So I might as well just sit through it to start with, rather than moving around, shifting, trying to make it stop. Now, Brendalyn, the 5 mistakes he thinks we make, or misunderstanding, is one, misunderstanding the intention of spiritual practice. So a lot of times meditators are pleased. They get kind of, little bit of spiritual righteousness if they sit often, and then they criticize themselves if they miss a sit. Sort of like Mississippi, miss a sit. Okay, and what they may not realize is that meditation practice is about every aspect of your life, all day long, 7 days a week. And to attain spiritual or deep states of awareness on your cushion, and then to live mindlessly the rest of your day is an incomplete practice. And so while any practice is better than none, continuity in practice in everyday life is extremely important. And I call this where the rubber meets the road. And that's why I wanted that sign that's at the end of our driveway as we leave the parking lot. And Brumett points out that this is particularly important in those situations where we typically lapse into unconsciousness. And so a little bit of awareness can save a whole lot of suffering. And so he encourages us to remember that nothing is outside the realm of your practice. And that's why I have had the Unified Mindfulness courses that I have been teaching the past 6 or 8 months. I've had them be mind-changing because I've learned to meditate off the cushion as well as on the cushion. I call the course Mindfulness Meditation on and off the cushion, monasticizing your life where the rubber meets the road. Another mistake that Brumett points out is chasing a particular experience. So a lot of people think that meditation means not thinking, as I mentioned before, while sitting perfectly still and bathing in some blissful experience. They think that we practice meditation to relax, to feel good, and to have a peaceful experience. And then they have that as their goal. So then if that goal's not met, they think the meditation's not effective. People will tend to judge their meditation. Oh, it was a good meditation if it was pleasant, and it was bad if it was unpleasant. Or sometimes they mean, I had no thoughts, so that was good. Well, they were brain dead if they had no thoughts, in my opinion. So that Brumett points out that even experienced yogis will find themselves chasing pleasant experiences rather than simply being present to what is, no matter how unpleasant it might be. That's the test of a deep spiritual practice, to be able to be present to whatever is, whether it's pain, emotional, physical, whatever. If we can be present and equanimous to it, that's a huge accomplishment. Now, meditation is intended to improve the quality of our awareness, regardless of the content. And so Brumett says that a good meditation is when you are able to sustain a clear and continuous awareness of each experience as it arises, without grasping or resisting any particular experience. Not trying to hold on to that good stuff, not pushing away what seems like bad stuff. So we want to be fully present to every experience without wanting it to be different than it is. He also points out, Robert Brumett, that we have 5 senses: seeing, hearing, sensing, smelling, and tasting. And that each one of these is unique and mutually exclusive. And we also have a 6th sense, you might call it a 6th sense, and that's called thinking. And it's really kind of a form of internal hearing and seeing. So self-talk is hearing our thinking. You know, these visions we get, these scenes we see, those are a way of seeing our experience. And it is the thinking that gives meaning to our experience. So the other 5 senses just tell us the facts. This is what's happening in the world. But our thinking gives it meaning. And so it can imprison us if we are locked into our mind's conditioned perception of the world. Because when we don't see the world as it is, but we see the world as we are. We see other people as we are instead of for who they are. And often that's seeing the world and other people from our past. So, to experience reality directly, that means as it is, we have to experience it directly through the senses. And what I love about the senses is what I am seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, or feeling is right here, right now. So if you want to know what it means to be in the now moment, it means to be aware of what you're either seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, or feeling. That's the only now moment there is. Any thoughts are about the past or the future, unless those thoughts are, what am I seeing, feeling, thinking right this minute? The other misunderstanding that Robert points out is trying to do it right. Thinking that, and he says, every time we try to do something, we will always fall on our butt. And he spells that B-U-T, one T. And so he encourages us to eliminate the word try from our vocabulary, at least as it relates to our Dharma practice, our meditation practice. So he says it's fine to have intention, but that's very different than trying, efforting, trying to make something happen, trying to have a specific outcome or whatever. He says if we're trying to keep our attention, if we're trying to keep our attention on the breath, for example, there's an energy of willfulness and efforting. We're trying to control the breath. But if I'm just holding the intention to be aware of the breath, it's a totally different experience. There's no trying. So I'm either present to the breath or I'm trying to control it. Some other misunderstandings that I'm not going to go into because we had some extra things in this morning's service is spiritual bypassing. And I know y'all have heard me talk about spiritual bypassing ad infinitum. It's basically not being willing to feel negative feelings. And so we make a spiritual affirmation or try to do something to turn our thought around. Someone said they heard someone say the other day, well, when I have a negative thought, I just change it to a positive one. I call that spiritual bypassing. So it's about being present to that thought, being present to that uncomfortable feeling, and giving it free passage to pass when it needs to pass versus repressing it where it's going to pop up somewhere else when we least expect it. The other one is comparing our progress with others. I'm sure you can all relate to. I remember sitting in meditation, my first meditation course, and I thought everybody, because I looked, you were supposed to keep your eyes closed, but I opened mine and looked around, and it seemed like everybody around me was sitting as still as a stone Buddha. So I was more concerned with how I wasn't as good as them than I was trying to actually practice meditation. And I also thought they were physically comfortable because they weren't moving. It took me quite a while to learn that I need to learn to sit through those uncomfortable positions and uncomfortable feelings in order to have purification happen, in order for those gross solidified sensations in my body to be allowed to be released, in order to allow those hurtful or whatever feelings might be to be released. Another common misunderstanding is thinking that we can, I'll just wait until things get better before I meditate. Right now, I just don't have time, but when things get better, I will. And my current teacher, Shinzen Young, says, there's never a reason to be unproductive in your life. not even for 1 minute. There's no excuse. So if you hear yourself saying, I just don't have time to meditate, you're wrong. Every moment is an opportunity to be present to that moment. I don't care if you are driving, you are walking, you are washing dishes, it doesn't matter. You can be present to this moment. Somebody said they noticed it the other day when they were washing dishes and they felt like they were dancing. It was like a dance with the washcloth. The dish rag, as they were washing the dishes and rinsing it and putting it in the drainer. And they just had never been present to it before. And then another one is expecting too much too soon. I started meditating 2 days ago. My life hasn't changed. This obviously isn't working. Okay? Then what I hadn't thought about was consuming too much media. I got this one from an article on liveanddare.com. And it talked about the fact that when we're inundated with stuff from the media, it can be very distracting. And then we sit down to meditate and all the stuff from the media is bombarding us. And so that maybe we can limit the amount of media exposure we have and the type of media exposure. What are you watching? Is it really contributing to your life? Is it making you a happier person? Is it doing anything more than just keeping you basically informed? In the 70s, while I was living in Hawaii, I realized that listening to a particular radio show with an argumentative host put me in the bad mood by the time I arrived at work. And so I gave it up. I switched stations. And this was when I was a blossoming party girl, staying up to all hours of the night, drinking and carousing. I had never heard of, much less considered, meditating. But even then, I had an awareness that listening to that media affected my mood. And I had enough wisdom to stop it. Also, another common misunderstanding is thinking you can do it yourself and you don't need a teacher. That doesn't mean you have to go and devote yourself to some guru or whatever, but find somebody who can teach you so that you don't get stuck in a dead end. Somebody that can help you adapt your practice that fits your current state of growth. Gawinka, I never had a personal conversation with him ever, but he was my teacher through those meditation courses I went to. And now Shinzen Young started out as my teacher when I read his book and I started watching his YouTubes. And now, a couple of weeks ago, I actually had a personal conversation with him. Wow! But even if I hadn't, he's still my teacher. Also thinking, you always have to meditate in the morning. Well, you can meditate at night. You can meditate during the day. You can meditate morning, noon, night, whatever. But sometimes meditating in the middle of the night is the best. Now, that doesn't mean you have to set your alarm to get up at 3 or 4. How many of you wake up at 3 or 4 anyway? And many of you can't go back to sleep. Meditate. There is no better time. And it may be spirit waking you up, saying, how about listening for a few minutes? And because there's a lot less going on. There's a lot less energy and stuff going on in the universe when in the middle of the night. So consider that. So how do I do it? I forgot the most important mistake and misunderstanding of all. I have to go back because I realized I needed to put it at the end. What do you think it might be? What's the biggest mistake in meditation that you can make? Not meditating. Okay? Not doing it. Meditation works best if you do it. So the only wrong way to meditate is to not meditate. And the best practice technique is the one you will actually do, just like the best exercise. You know, in Unified Mindfulness, I teach 8 basic techniques. You know, and there's a free program, by the way, called CORE, C-O-R-E, that will teach you all that stuff. And there's like 8 basic techniques that you can use in all kinds of situations. But you got to use the one that you'll really use. If you're not willing to use all 8 of them, don't try to use all 8 of them. Pick the one that works for you. So obviously the how-to is prayer and meditation. On the cushion and off the cushion. Monasticizing your life out there where the rubber meets the road. And if you find yourself caught in one of these misunderstandings or mistakes, work on them, one at a time. Start with the ones that are easiest to change or that would have the biggest impact. So your call to action today is to recondition the way your mind works, increase your happiness, improve your mental and physical health, and take the time and consistent effort to do so. And let's begin doing so right now in a sacred time of shared prayer. So I invite you to just straighten up. And as you relax and let go of any physical tension, settle into what may at least initially be a comfortable posture. And just on your own, with no guidance from me, be aware of the present moment as revealed to you through your senses. No particular order, or you can just pick one. What are you seeing with your eyes open or closed? What are you hearing? What are you smelling maybe, or tasting? What are you feeling? Do you feel your feet in your shoes? Your butt on the chair, your arms, your hands on your lap. Maybe you feel some sensations in the body, the breath, your heartbeat, an energy that tells you you have a body even though your eyes are closed. So I invite you to just take a few minutes and experience the now moment through your senses. And I invite you to see if you can sit still through it, even if there's some discomfort. It's only for a few minutes. This too shall pass. And as we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, feel gratitude in your heart as you silently say, thank you, divinity that meditates me, for an awareness of the benefits of meditation, clarity around the misunderstandings about meditation, and the wisdom to meditate, no matter what. Thank you, divinity that meditates me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that it is so, and so it is, and so I am. Amen.